Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and welcome to our channel. Now, it's very clear that the Democrats are deeply divided over the infrastructure package. I'm not talking about the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan, which is a done deal, but House Speaker Pelosi's insistence, her gambit, if you will, of only taking that up in the House if the Senate passes the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. Welcome to our channel, everyone. Let's get started. Here's a headline of an article on your screen from The Guardian. Democrats' divisions could still derail infrastructure bill. So what is happening is that last week, the Senate did advance a $3.5 trillion budget blueprint for soft infrastructure projects to tackle climate change and healthcare. But although many Senate Democrats congratulated themselves on getting this done, there are some challenges. Liberal Democrats are not happy because their top climate and social priorities were eliminated as President Biden was seeking a bipartisan compromise with moderate Senate Republicans. So, a lot of progressives have insisted that the House delay considering the bipartisan infrastructure bill until the Senate passes a much larger climate and healthcare bill. So, a lot of liberal Democrats are very unhappy. In fact, the entire Democrat plan essentially depends on House Speaker Pelosi's gambit, which basically is that the House will not take up the bipartisan infrastructure bill until the Senate first passes the reconciliation bill, which will take 2 weeks at least because there's a 50-50 Senate right now. So this move by House Speaker Pelosi is trying to balance all the demands that the progressive Democrats have. Progressive Democrats like Bernie Sanders, well, he's an independent, but he essentially is a progressive Democrats like Senator Elizabeth Warren, also independents like Angus King from Maine. At the same time, balancing what the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, wants is also critical for the Biden administration and for House Speaker Pelosi. Also, progressive Democrats like Congressman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez want an ambitious climate initiative, want an ambitious infrastructure initiative, which essentially the White House and the Democrats are trying to balance. So that really is the challenge. In fact, House Speaker Pelosi said this: the votes in the House and the Senate depend on us having both bills. So now this is really a major complication for the Democrats because there's a razor thin majority in the House for House Speaker Pelosi. She can only afford 3 Democratic defections to pass the bipartisan bill and the reconciliation bill if all the votes occur along party lines. Any protest votes from either faction could sink the entire effort. In fact, here's another headline on your screen from Bloomberg because House Speaker Pelosi is already making some moves. House Speaker Pelosi is floating a procedural compromise to moderates on the budget plan. So what is happening here? House Speaker Pelosi made a proposal in a letter to Democrats, and this just happened. And this involves a procedural vote in the coming week on the $550 billion infrastructure bill to try and appease them, as well as an already planned vote to advance the more ambitious Senate budget framework for the $3.5 trillion. So in short, House Speaker Pelosi is saying, hey, let's use a certain procedure so that we can try and get both. And so what House Speaker Pelosi is trying to do is satisfy at least 9 moderates who have been threatening to oppose the major infrastructure package. And this is what House Speaker Pelosi said in a letter that was released by her office. I'm going to quote her. Our goal is to pass the budget resolution the week of August 23rd, so that's coming up, so that we may pass Democrats' Build Back Better agenda via reconciliation as soon as possible. So in short, House Speaker Pelosi is saying, first, let's pass a budget resolution to get $3.5 trillion in funding and then use the process of reconciliation to allocate that $3.5 trillion to the items we want, to our policy objectives. And this is the gambit from House Speaker Pelosi. She also said this: to that end, I have requested that the Rules Committee explore the possibility of a rule that advances both the budget resolution and the bipartisan infrastructure package. This will put us on a path to advance the infrastructure bill and the reconciliation bill. What does this ultimately mean? What is the bottom line? House Speaker Pelosi is suggesting a procedural way for the Democrats to get what they want without actually conceding. It looks like she's conceding, and this is really the politics of this situation. This really is the hidden aspect of this situation, and that's why you come to our channel. Without actually conceding anything, she's suggesting a procedural way for her to get what she wants and for the Democrats to be appeased as well. So she's referring to a separate measure that typically defines floor vote procedures and amendments to be debated rather than the legislation itself. Again, with the narrow House Democratic majority, House Speaker Pelosi cannot lose more than 3 votes from her party. And by the way, there is going to be anticipated opposition from the Republicans. Now, right now, we don't have a response to House Speaker Pelosi's offer from Congressman Josh Gottheimer of New Jersey, who's one of the moderates who's actually been putting pressure on House Speaker Pelosi. And on Thursday, this is a few days ago, he and 8 other moderates wrote to the Speaker, "It's time to get shovels in the ground and people to work. We will not consider voting for a budget resolution unless the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act passes the House and is signed into law." So basically what the moderate Democrats were saying is, no. You pass the $1 trillion package in the House, and then we'll talk about the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation that you folks want. And House Speaker Pelosi is saying, no. We're going to use a certain rule to try and do it all at one time, because Speaker Pelosi knows that once the $1 trillion package passes the House, the Republicans will say, why do we need more money? She's seeing this as the one opportunity, essentially the once-in-a-generation opportunity to pass $1 trillion plus $3.5 trillion in spending, because once the $1 trillion package passes the House, the ability for the Democrats to get an additional $3.5 trillion passed will essentially be eliminated, will essentially be decreased. In other words, that opportunity will get watered down. So for House Speaker Pelosi, she's adopting an all-or-none approach. Many other Democratic members of the fiscally conservative Blue Dog Coalition have also spoken with House Speaker Pelosi and said they want a very quick vote on the infrastructure bill, but House Speaker Pelosi is suggesting a procedural compromise. It looks like a concession, but it's really not. She's suggesting a procedural compromise to try and get the whole thing, because House Speaker Pelosi feels that it's now or never. And if we don't get both right now, we're probably only going to get one. And then the Republicans will be able to essentially say, hey, we already did this. Why do we need more? And that is where all of this stands right now. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. Thank you so much for being a viewer and a subscriber. This right here is my Twitter feed. You'll be able to keep up with all the latest news stories on Twitter. I will keep you updated. Just follow me on Twitter, and also make sure to click like and subscribe to our channel. By the way, our Twitter handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of House Speaker Pelosi's apparent concession by way of a procedural vote, but in fact it is a gambit to ensure that the entire $4.5 trillion, I'm talking the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan, plus the $3.5 trillion in additional funding through reconciliation happens, and she wants to make sure that it gets done now while appeasing the moderate Democrats like Josh Gottheimer, the Democrat from New Jersey. Once again, please click like, please click subscribe, please enable notifications. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.